Captain Jake Morrison stood in the viewing deck of the ship New Horizon. Through the clear glass, he could see Earth getting smaller and smaller. Blue and green colors mixed together as his home planet became just a dot in space. He pressed his hand against the cold window and felt his heart break. "Captain, we need you on the bridge," said a voice behind him. Jake turned around and saw Dr. Lisa Grant walking toward him. Her face looked tired and sad. She had been working for 3 days, without sleep, helping people get ready to leave their homes forever. "How many ships do we have?" Jake asked as they walked down the long hallway. The walls were white metal, and their footsteps made echoing sounds. 50 ships total," Lisa said. "About 50,000 people. That's all we could save." She stopped, walking, and looked at Jake. "The council gave us only 90 days. That wasn't enough time." Jake felt angry but tried to stay calm. The Galactic Council had made their choice clear. Humans were too dangerous to live with other species. They had to leave all the planets where humans lived and go far away. Very far away. 3 hours later, Jake sat in the captain's chair on the bridge. Around him, other crew members worked, at their stations. Red and blue lights blinked on the control panels. The main screen showed space ahead of them, filled with stars. "Captain, we're getting a message from Earth," said the communications officer. "It's Ambassador Helen Price." "Put her on screen," Jake said. Ambassador Price appeared on the main screen. She looked older than Jake remembered. Her gray hair was messy and her eyes were red from crying. "Jake, I tried everything," she said. "I spoke to every council member. I begged them to change their minds, but they wouldn't listen." "What exactly did they say?" Jake asked. "They said humans are too violent, too unpredictable. They're afraid we'll start wars with other species." Price's voice shook with anger. "The Zephyrians led the vote. They can read minds and they say, human thoughts are too chaotic. The Corvins agreed because they want our trade routes. And the Thrain just hate us because we won the border war 5 years ago." Jake nodded. He knew the real reasons. Humans were getting too strong, too successful. In 30 years, they had built colonies on 20 planets. Human ships were faster than most alien ships. Human soldiers were better fighters. Other species were getting jealous. "Where will you go?" Price asked. "Past the Outer Rim," Jake said. "Into uncharted space. We'll find a new home somewhere." "I wish I could come with you," Price said. "But someone has to stay and help the humans who couldn't leave in time." "Take care of yourself, Helen," Jake said. The screen went black. 2 weeks later, the human fleet was traveling through empty space. They had passed the last known star system 3 days ago. Now they were in the area where no species had ever explored. Jake was in his quarters looking at star maps when alarms started ringing. He ran to the bridge. "What's happening?" he shouted. "Ships approaching fast," said the tactical officer. 20 vessels. They're Corvin design." "Put them on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen showed sleek black ships with green lights. They were much bigger than human ships and had heavy weapons. "This is Commander Ryan Burke from the defense ship Liberty," came a voice over the radio. "Jake, we've got problems. These ships aren't supposed to be here." Jake grabbed the communication device. "Ryan, can you identify them?" "They're Corvin enforcement ships," Ryan replied. "But the exile agreement says they can't attack us if we leave peacefully." "Incoming message from the lead Corvin ship," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Jake said. A Corvin appeared on screen. Corvins looked like giant lizards, with 4 arms and yellow eyes. This one wore a military uniform with gold markings. "Human ships, you are in violation of galactic law," the Corvin said in a hissing voice. "Prepare to be destroyed." "Wait," Jake said. "We're following the exile order. We're leaving Council space as commanded." "The Council has decided that exile is not enough," the Corvin replied. "Humans are too dangerous to exist anywhere in the galaxy. You will all die here." The Corvin ships opened fire. Bright energy beams shot through space toward the human fleet. Jake's ship shook as the shields took damage. "All ships, evasive action!" Jake shouted into his communicator. "Protect the civilian vessels." The battle was not fair. Corvin ships had better weapons and stronger shields, but human pilots were clever and brave. They flew their ships in patterns the Corvins couldn't predict. Some human ships were destroyed, but they managed to destroy 5 Corvin vessels. "Captain, we can't win this fight," said Dr. Grant. We need to run. Where? Jake asked. They're faster than us. There, Lisa pointed at the main screen. Far ahead of them was a strange shape. It looked like a giant ring floating in space. It was so big that a planet could fit inside it. What is that thing? Jake asked. I don't know, Lisa said. But it's our only chance. Jake made his decision. All ships, follow us to that structure. Maximum speed. The human fleet raced toward the mysterious ring. Behind them, the remaining Corvin ships gave chase. Energy beams flew past human ships, some hitting and causing explosions. As they got closer to the ring, Jake could see it was made of some kind of dark metal. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. The ring was slowly spinning, and blue lights moved along its edges. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from that thing, said the science officer. Whatever it is, it's still active. Take us inside, Jake ordered. The New Horizon flew through the center of the ring, followed by the rest of the human fleet. As soon as they passed through, something amazing happened. The ring began to glow brighter, the blue lights moved faster, and suddenly the Corvin ships stopped chasing them. Why did they stop? Jake asked. Dr. Grant was looking at her scanner readings. Her face was pale. Jake, this ring is giving off energy patterns I've never seen before. The technology that built this is far more advanced than anything in the galaxy. How old is it? Jake asked. According to these readings, Lisa said slowly, this structure is over 100,000 years old. Jake stared at the massive ring around them. Somewhere in his mind, he felt like he had seen these symbols before, like this place was somehow familiar. But that was impossible. No human had ever been this far from Earth. The Corvin ships turned around and flew away, apparently too afraid to follow the humans inside the ancient structure. Jake didn't know it yet, but they had just found something that would change everything, something that would reveal the truth about humanity's real place in the galaxy. The exile was supposed to be the end of humanity's story among the stars. Instead, it was just the beginning of something much bigger. 3 years had passed since the human fleet found the giant ring in space. Jake Morrison walked through the new city they had built inside it. The place was called Haven now, and it was home to all 50,000 humans who had escaped Earth. The city was growing fast. White buildings reached up toward the ring's inner surface, which glowed with soft blue light during the day and gentle silver at night. Children played in parks, where earth plants grew under artificial suns. It was starting to feel like home. Jake stopped at a large building in the center of the city. This was the research center where Dr. Lisa Grant worked with her team. They had been studying the ring for 3 years, trying to understand who built it and why. Good morning, Jake, Lisa said when he walked into her laboratory. She was looking at a computer screen that showed strange symbols and numbers. I think we found something big today. What kind of big? Jake asked. He had learned to be careful when Lisa got excited about her discoveries. Come and see this, she said, walking to a different room. In the center of the room stood Dr. Kevin Torres, an archaeologist who had joined their team 2 years ago. He was examining a large black panel covered with symbols that glowed when he touched them. Jake, you need to see this, Kevin said. His hands were shaking with excitement. We found a data storage system in the ring's central core. It's been waiting for someone to activate it. Waiting for who? Jake asked. That's the amazing part, Lisa said. It only responds to human genetic markers. Kevin touched the panel by accident yesterday and it came alive. When the Corvin engineer tried to touch it last month, nothing happened. Jake looked at the glowing symbols. They seemed familiar somehow. Like words he should be able to read, but couldn't quite remember. What does it say? Kevin pressed his hand against the panel. The symbols changed and moved around, forming new patterns. Suddenly, images appeared in the air above the panel. They were like movies made of light, showing scenes from long ago. The first image showed a planet covered with cities. The buildings were tall and beautiful, with flowing designs that looked almost alive. Ships flew between the buildings, sleek and fast. This is Earth, Lisa said quietly. But look at the date stamp. Numbers appeared at the bottom of the image. Jake couldn't read them at first, but then Kevin touched another symbol and they changed to human numbers. 100,000 years ago, Jake read aloud. But that's impossible. Humans didn't have cities back then. The image changed. Now it showed space, filled with hundreds of ships. They were clearly human-made, with the same flowing designs as the buildings, but these ships were huge, bigger than anything in the current galaxy. According to this data, Kevin said, humans once controlled most of the galaxy. We had colonies on thousands of planets. Our technology was far beyond what any species has today. What happened to them? Jake asked. The images kept changing, showing the story. Jake saw human ships exploring new star systems. He saw meetings with alien species, some friendly and some not. He saw humans building amazing things, space stations, that could hold millions of people, machines that could create planets, weapons that could move stars. Then the story turned dark. The images showed other species working together against humans. Jake recognized some of them, ancestors of the Zephyrians, Corvins, and Thrain. They were younger then, weaker, but they were afraid of human power. They formed a coalition, Lisa explained as they watched, just like they did to us. But back then, they had surprise on their side. The images showed a massive war. Human ships fought against fleets from dozens of species. At first, humans were winning. Their technology was too advanced. But then something changed. Betrayal, Kevin said, pointing at a new image. Some humans sided with the aliens. They gave away human secrets and locations. Jake watched in horror as human worlds burned. Ancient Earth, with all its beautiful cities, was destroyed. Millions of human ships were hunted down and destroyed. The few survivors scattered across the galaxy, hiding in places like this ring. But if they wiped out human civilization, Jake said, how did we survive on Earth? The images showed the answer. A small group of humans had escaped to a distant planet, primitive Earth, where early humans were just learning to use tools. The survivors had hidden among them, slowly rebuilding but staying primitive to avoid detection. Our ancestors deliberately forgot their history, Lisa said. They destroyed their own technology and lived like cavemen to stay hidden. Over thousands of years, the true story became myths and legends. Kevin touched another symbol. New images appeared, showing the inside of the ring where they now lived. This place was a backup plan, he explained. The ancient humans built dozens of these hidden bases throughout the galaxy. Each one has technology, ships, and manufacturing facilities waiting for their descendants to return. Are you saying we're not just humans? Jake asked. We're the descendants of a galactic empire? That's exactly what we're saying, Lisa replied. And there's more. She touched the panel herself. A map appeared in the air, showing the entire galaxy. Dozens of points were marked with pulsing lights. These are other hidden bases, she said. The ancient humans left them for us to find. Each one has different technology and resources. Jake stared at the map. All his life, he had been told that humans were newcomers to the galaxy, young and primitive compared to the great alien empires. But the truth was the opposite. Humans had ruled the galaxy long before any of the current powers existed. Have you told anyone else about this? Jake asked. Just Amy Foster from the engineering team, Kevin said. She's been working on interfacing with the ancient systems. It turns out our technology is compatible with theirs because it's based on the same principles. Amy Foster walked into the room at that moment. She was a young engineer with short brown hair and grease stains on her uniform. In her hands, she carried a device that looked like a helmet made of crystal and metal. Jake, you have to try this, she said excitedly. I've figured out how to connect with the ring's main computer system. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Is it safe? Jake asked. I've tested it myself, Amy said. It doesn't hurt, but it shows you things. Memories from the ancient humans who built this place. Jake looked at the helmet, then at his friends. Outside, in the space around the ring, he knew the galaxy was falling apart. Without human trade routes and peacekeeping forces, pirates were attacking merchant ships. The three great powers were fighting each other for resources. People were suffering. What do you think we should do with this information? He asked. The ancient database has star charts showing the location of every hidden base, Lisa said. If we could reactivate even a few of them, we'd have technology far beyond anything the Council powers possess. But would that make us better than them? Jake asked. Or just more dangerous? Kevin looked at the images still floating above the panel. They showed the destruction of the first human empire and the suffering that followed. "The difference is what we do with the power," he said. "The ancient humans tried to control other species. We could choose to liberate them instead." Jake picked up the crystal helmet. It was lighter than it looked and warm to the touch. "If I use this, what will I see?" "The truth," Amy said simply. "About who we really are and what we're capable of." Jake put on the helmet. Immediately, his mind filled with visions. He saw the galaxy as it had been 100,000 years ago, when humans traveled freely among the stars. He felt the knowledge of ancient engineers who had built machines that could reshape reality itself. He understood technologies that current science couldn't even imagine, but most importantly, he saw the faces of the humans who had lived and died to preserve this knowledge for their descendants. They had sacrificed everything so that someday, humans might reclaim their place in the galaxy. When Jake removed the helmet, tears were running down his face. He looked at his friends and made a decision that would change everything. "Start making a list of the closest hidden bases," he said. "We're going to visit every one of them. It's time for humanity to remember who we really are." Outside the ring, the galaxy continued its slow descent into chaos. But inside Haven, the descendants of an ancient empire were awakening to their true heritage. The species that had exiled them as dangerous primitives had no idea what was coming. The real war, for the galaxy was about to begin. Captain Nick Wade stood on the bridge of the newly built ship called the Defiance. It was unlike any human ship ever made before. The hull was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light, and strange blue lines ran along its surface like veins. This ship was built using ancient human technology that had been sleeping for 100,000 years. "Captain, we're approaching the first hidden base," said his navigation officer. Through the main screen, Nick could see what looked like an empty asteroid field, but his sensors showed something different. "Amy, activate the recognition signal," Nick ordered. Amy Foster worked at her console, sending out the genetic codes they had discovered in the Haven ring. Suddenly, the asteroids began to move. They weren't rocks at all, but pieces of a massive station that had been disguised to look like space debris. "Amazing," whispered Dr. Ben Parker, the weapons researcher, who had joined their mission. "It's been hidden here for millennia, and no one knew." The station reassembled itself into a huge complex with docking bays, manufacturing facilities, and weapon platforms. As soon as the Defiance docked, automated systems came online. Lights turned on in corridors that had been dark for ages. Machines began working again, as if they had only been sleeping. This was the third hidden base they had found in 6 months. Each one had been different. The first had contained advanced ship designs and manufacturing robots. The second had held libraries of scientific knowledge that made current galactic technology look primitive. But this base was special. According to the ancient records, this was where the old humans had stored their most powerful weapons. "Ben, what are you reading on those weapon systems?" Nick asked as they walked through the station's armory. Ben looked at his scanner and shook his head in disbelief. "These weapons work on principles I've never seen before. Look at this." He pointed to a device that looked like a cannon, but with strange crystal components. Instead of firing energy beams, this manipulates gravity itself. It can crush a ship by increasing its mass until it collapses. "And this one?" Nick asked, looking at another weapon. "Quantum disruptor," Ben said, reading from his scanner. "It shifts the target into a different phase of reality. Energy shields. Can't stop it, because it passes right through them, then shifts back to normal space inside the enemy ship." Amy was examining a third weapon platform. "This one affects time," she called out. "It can slow down enemy ships until they're moving, like they're stuck in thick liquid, or speed up our ships so we can move 10 times faster than normal." Nick felt excited and worried at the same time. These weapons could make human ships unstoppable in battle, but they were also incredibly dangerous. In the wrong hands, they could destroy entire star systems. "Sir, we're getting a message from Admiral Carol Stone," said the communications officer. Admiral Stone appeared on Nick's communicator screen. She was the leader of the new human fleet, chosen because she understood both military strategy and politics. "Nick, how's the weapon testing going?" she asked. "Better than we hoped," Nick replied. "These ancient systems are beyond anything the Council powers have, but Admiral, I'm not sure we should use them." "Why not?" Stone asked. Because they're too powerful, Nick said honestly. If we're not careful, we could become the same kind of threat our ancestors were. Stone was quiet for a moment. Nick, I understand your concerns, but we've received intelligence that changes everything. The Thrain Confederacy is planning something big. Nick's stomach felt cold. What kind of big? They're building a fleet specifically designed to hunt down human survivors, Stone explained. 50 of their most advanced warships, led by Admiral Thakvor himself. They call it the Extermination Fleet. Nick knew Admiral Thakvor by reputation. He was the Thrain military leader who had argued for completely destroying humanity rather than just exiling them. He was cruel, smart, and he never gave up. When will they move? Nick asked. Our spies say within 2 weeks, Stone replied. They know we're out here somewhere and they're going to search every system until they find us. Nick looked around at the ancient weapons surrounding him. Suddenly, they didn't seem too powerful anymore. They seemed necessary. Admiral, I need 3 days to test these systems properly, he said. Then I'll bring the Defiance to meet this extermination fleet. Nick, you can't fight 50 ships with one vessel, Stone said. I won't be fighting 50 normal ships, Nick replied, looking at the gravity manipulator cannon. I'll be fighting 50 targets. 3 days later, Nick and his crew were ready. They had installed the ancient weapons on the Defiance and run every test they could think of. Dr. Parker had figured out how to combine the different systems for maximum effect. Amy had programmed the ship's computer to handle the complex calculations needed to use quantum and temporal weapons. The Defiance waited in deep space at the edge of an empty star system. Nick's sensors showed 50 large shapes approaching fast. The Thrain extermination fleet had found them. All stations ready, Nick announced to his crew. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today. We're fighting for every human who died when they destroyed our first empire. We're fighting for every species that the Council has oppressed. And we're fighting to prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars. The Thrain ships came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They were big, heavily armed vessels painted in the dark red colors of the Confederacy. Each one was twice the size of the Defiance, Admiral Thakvor's. Face appeared on Nick's screen. He looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and black eyes. His mandibles clicked as he spoke. Human vessel, you are surrounded and outnumbered, Thakvor said in his buzzing voice. Surrender now and your death will be quick. Counter offer, Nick replied calmly. Leave this system and never hunt humans again and I won't have to destroy all of you. Thakvor made a sound that might have been laughter. 1 ship against 50? You humans truly are insane. Amy, activate the temporal acceleration field, Nick ordered. Suddenly, everything around the Defiance seemed to slow down. The Thrain. Ships were moving so slowly they appeared frozen. Energy beams that had been fired at them crawled through space like they were moving through thick honey. Quantum disruptors target the command ships, Nick called out. Purple energy beams shot from the Defiance. They passed right through the enemy shields and appeared inside the Thrain vessels. 5 command ships exploded from within, their crews having no time to even understand what had happened. Gravity manipulators, focus on the heavy cruisers, Nick ordered. The gravity weapons activated. 10 Thrain ships suddenly found themselves being crushed by their own increased mass. Their hulls cracked and imploded as the artificial gravity fields made them collapse on themselves. The remaining Thrain ships tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't touch the Defiance. When they fired energy beams, quantum fields shifted the human ship into a different phase of reality. When they launched missiles, gravity fields deflected them harmlessly into space. In less than 10 minutes, the entire extermination fleet was destroyed. 50 of the most advanced warships in the Thrain Confederacy had been reduced to floating wreckage by a single human vessel. Nick deactivated the temporal field and watched as normal time returned. Where once there had been a mighty fleet, now there was only debris and emergency escape pods. This is Admiral Thakvor, came a weak signal from one of the escape pods. What are you? What kind of monsters have humans become? We're not monsters, Nick replied. We're just no longer the prey. He opened a channel to broadcast across the galaxy. Every species with communication technology would hear this message. This is Captain Nick Wade of the Human Republic. he announced. For too long, humans have been hunted, exiled, and treated as second-class beings. No more. We have reclaimed our heritage and our technology. Any force that threatens human civilians or our allies will meet the same fate as this fleet. Nick ended the transmission and looked at his crew. They had done something amazing today, but he knew it was just the beginning. Set course for Haven, he ordered. Admiral Stone needs to know that the galaxy is about to change. The age of human weakness is over. As the Defiance jumped to faster-than-light travel, news of the battle began spreading across the galaxy. The species that had once considered humans to be primitive and weak now had to face a terrifying truth. The humans were back. They had technology beyond current understanding, and they were no longer afraid to use it. The Galactic Council emergency session was called for the next day. For the first time in galactic history, they would be discussing how to defend against humanity instead of how to control it. President Sarah Johnson stood in the command center of Haven, watching dozens of screens that showed the galaxy in chaos. 6 months had passed since Captain Nick Wade destroyed the Thrain extermination fleet, and everything had changed. "Madam President, we're receiving reports from 12 different systems," said General Tony Miller, walking up to her with a datapad. "The Council Alliance is moving faster than we expected." Sarah looked at the reports. The 3 major powers, Zephyrians, Corvins, and Thrain, had done something they had never done before. They had combined their entire military forces into one massive war machine. Over 5,000 ships, all aimed at destroying humanity once and for all. "How many ships do we have ready?" Sarah asked. 200, Tony replied. "All equipped. With ancient technology, but still outnumbered 25 to 1, Sarah nodded. She had expected this. When you show the galaxy that you're no longer weak, the galaxy tries to crush you before you become too strong. It was the same thing that had happened to the first human empire 100,000 years ago. Any word from Dr. Rachel Kim's intelligence network? Sarah asked. Good news there, Tony said with a small smile. 37 species have secretly contacted us offering support. They're tired of council oppression and want to join our side. Which species? Mostly the smaller ones that the council has been bullying for centuries, Tony explained. The Deltans, who were forced to give up their mining rights. The Spiral Arm Confederation, whose ships get boarded and searched without reason. Even some Corvin colony worlds that want independence from the main empire. Sarah felt hopeful for the first time in weeks. This war wouldn't just be about human survival. It could become a fight for the freedom of every oppressed species in the galaxy. Madam President, called Dr. Kim as she entered the command center. Rachel was a small woman with sharp eyes who had built the most effective spy network in galactic history. I have important news from the Council homeworlds. What kind of news? Sarah asked. The kind that could end this war quickly, Rachel said, activating a holographic display. My agents have discovered that the Council alliance isn't as strong as it appears. The 3 major powers are planning to betray each other. The hologram showed secret messages between Council leaders. Sarah read them with growing amazement. The Zephyrians plan to let the Thrain and Corvins fight humans first, she said. Then they'll attack the survivors and claim victory for themselves. And the Corvins are planning to use the war as an excuse to take over Thrain territory, Rachel added. They think human technology will weaken Thrain forces enough for a Corvin conquest. What about the Thrain? Tony asked. They're planning to use captured human technology to attack both the Zephyrians and Corvins after the war, Rachel said. Each side thinks they're using the others. Sarah smiled. This was exactly what she needed to hear. Rachel, can your agents make sure each side learns about the other's plans? Already done, Rachel said with a grin. I leaked the Zephyrian plans to the Thrain, the Corvin plans to the Zephyrians, and the Thrain plans to the Corvins. By now, their alliance is probably falling apart. But even as she spoke, alarms began ringing throughout Haven. On the main screen, thousands of red dots appeared, showing enemy ships entering the system. They came anyway, Tony said grimly. Even knowing they can't trust each other, they still want to destroy us first. Sarah looked at the massive enemy fleet approaching their hidden base. Despite their internal problems, the Council powers had brought everything they had. This would be the biggest space battle in galactic history. All human fleets, this is President Johnson, she announced over the communication system. Today we fight not just for our survival, but for the future of the galaxy. Remember who we are. Remember who we have always been. We are the descendants of the First Galactic Empire, and today we reclaim our birthright. The battle began an hour later. General Miller commanded the human forces from the flagship Vengeance, a massive dreadnought built using ancient human designs. Admiral Stone led the fast attack squadrons, using hit-and-run tactics to confuse the enemy. Captain Wade commanded the Special Weapons Division, employing the most advanced ancient technology. The Council fleet was enormous and impressive, but it had a fatal weakness. The three major powers couldn't coordinate properly because they didn't trust each other. Zephyrian commanders refused to share battle plans with Corvan officers. Thrain ships wouldn't provide cover for Zephyrian vessels. Corvan vessels positioned themselves to attack Thrain ships if the opportunity arose. Human forces exploited these divisions ruthlessly. When Zephyrian and Corvan ships got too close to each other, human vessels used psychological warfare broadcasts to make each side think the other was about to attack. Dr. Kim's intelligence network fed false information to all three council powers, making them suspicious of each other's movements. General Miller to President Johnson, came the voice over the communication system. The enemy fleet is breaking apart. Zephyrian ships are pulling back from Corvan positions. Some Thrain vessels are actually firing on their Corvan allies. Sarah watched the battle screens with satisfaction. The massive council fleet was turning into a three-way civil war, with human forces picking off damaged ships from all sides. But the real turning point came when Captain Wade led his squadron against the Corvan home fleet. Using temporal acceleration, fields and quantum disruptors, 12 human ships destroyed over 300 Corvan vessels in less than 20 minutes. "This is impossible," came a transmission from the surviving Corvan commander. "What kind of technology are you using?" "The same technology your ancestors helped destroy 100,000 years ago," Wade replied. "The technology you thought was gone forever." The Corvan commander's next words were heard across the galaxy. "All Corvan ships, withdraw immediately. We cannot fight this enemy." The Corvan withdrawal triggered a chain reaction. Thrain ships, seeing their allies retreat, began pulling back as well. The Zephyrians, left alone against the human fleet, quickly realized they were doomed. "President Johnson," came a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. "This is High Commander Zelak. We request terms for surrender." Sarah had been waiting for this moment. Unconditional surrender of all Council forces, immediate liberation of all species under Council oppression, and formal recognition of the Human Republic as the rightful government of this galaxy. "You cannot be serious," Zelak replied. "You are asking us to give up everything." "You gave us the same choice 4 years ago," Sarah said coldly, "except you didn't offer us the option to live. I'm being more generous than you were." There was a long silence. Finally, Zelak spoke again. "We accept your terms." The Battle of Haven was over. The three great powers that had ruled the galaxy for millennia had been defeated by the species they had exiled as too primitive and dangerous, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Over the next months, the galaxy transformed completely. Species that had been oppressed for centuries celebrated their freedom. Human administrators helped establish new governments based on equality and cooperation rather than domination. The ancient human technology was shared with allied species, bringing prosperity to systems that had known only poverty under Council rule. But not everyone accepted the new order. Resistance groups formed among the old Council powers. Some species chose exile rather than accept human leadership. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, plots were already forming to restore the old ways. Sarah stood again in the command center, now expanded to govern the entire galaxy. Through the windows, she could see ships from dozens of species coming and going, all working together under the Human Republic banner. "Any regrets?" General Miller asked, joining her at the window. "About the war?" "No," Sarah said, "but I do worry about what comes next. Winning a war is easier than building a lasting peace. The ancient humans failed because they tried to rule through fear," Miller said. "We're trying to rule through cooperation. Maybe that will make the difference." Sarah hoped he was right. The galaxy was theirs now, but keeping it would be the real challenge. Outside, among the stars, the future of every species in the galaxy hung in the balance. Emperor Jake Morrison walked slowly through the great hall of the new galactic palace on Haven. The hall was huge, with a ceiling that reached so high it seemed to touch the stars. Representatives from 200 different species sat in curved rows, all facing the center where important decisions were made. Jake had never wanted to be an emperor. He had been a simple ship captain who just wanted to keep his people safe. But after the war ended, every species in the galaxy had asked for the same thing. They wanted humans to lead them. They were tired of the old ways where the strong bullied the weak. "Your Majesty," said Chancellor Lisa Grant, walking up to him with a data pad. "The morning reports are ready?" Jake smiled at his old friend. Lisa had become the head of the new Galactic Senate, where every species had a voice in making decisions. It was very different from the old council, where only 3 powers made all the rules. "What's the news today?" Jake asked. "Good news from the Outer Rim," Lisa said. "The former Corvin colony worlds have voted to join the Republic officially. That makes us 143 member worlds this month." "And the bad news?" Jake asked. He had learned that good news usually came with bad news. "The Zephyrian resistance is still active in their home system," Lisa said with a frown. "They're calling themselves the True Council and claiming we're illegal conquerors." Jake nodded. He had expected this. Not everyone would accept the new government peacefully. Some of the old council leaders still believed they had the right to rule over other species. "What about the Thrain?" he asked. "Admiral Thakvor and his followers have retreated to the edge of the galaxy," Lisa said. "They've set up a military base in the Dark Nebula. Intelligence reports say they're trying to build new weapons." "Are they a threat?" Jake asked. "Not yet," Lisa said, "but Fleet Admiral Ryan Burke wants permission to attack them before they get stronger." Jake thought about this. Ryan had become the supreme commander of all galactic defense forces after the war. He was a good soldier and a loyal friend, but he sometimes wanted to solve problems with military force. "Tell Ryan that we'll watch them carefully," Jake said. "But we won't attack first. We're trying to be better than the old council, remember?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Lisa said. Jake still felt strange when people called him that. He had accepted the title because the galaxy needed a strong leader to unite all the different species. But he tried to use his power wisely. "Your Majesty," called another voice. Dr. Kevin Torres approached with excitement on his face. "We've made another discovery in the ancient archives." "What kind of discovery?" Jake asked. "A star map showing human settlements beyond our galaxy," Kevin said. "The ancient humans didn't just rule this galaxy. They had colonies in other galaxies too." Jake felt amazed and worried at the same time. "How many other galaxies?" "At least 12 that we can identify," Kevin said. "And the star maps show something else. There are still active human settlements out there. Our people survived in other galaxies when they were destroyed here." "Are you saying there are other humans who never lost their technology?" Lisa asked. "That's exactly what I'm saying," Kevin replied. "The archives contain messages from them. They've been waiting for us to reclaim this galaxy so they can come home." Jake looked out through the hall's great windows at the stars beyond. The idea that humans had survived and thrived in other galaxies was wonderful and terrifying. What if they wanted to take over? What if they thought the new human republic was too soft? "Have you tried to contact them?" Jake asked. "We sent a message 3 months ago," Kevin said. "We should get a reply soon. The nearest human galaxy is only 500 light-years away." Before Jake could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the palace. Emergency lights flashed red and blue. A voice came over the communication system. "Your Majesty, please report to the command center immediately. We have unknown ships approaching the system." Jake ran to the command center with Lisa and Kevin, following behind. The room was filled with officers working at control stations. On the main screen, Jake could see dozens of ships approaching Haven. They were unlike anything he had ever seen before. The ships were huge and beautiful, with flowing designs that seemed almost alive. They were clearly human-made, but far more advanced than anything the human republic had built. Admiral Burke reporting, "Your Majesty," came a voice over the communication system. "We have 47 unknown vessels entering the system. They're Not responding to our signals, but they're not acting hostile either. Any weapons detected? Jake asked. That's the strange part, Ryan's voice replied. These ships don't seem to have weapons at all, but our scanners show they're generating more power than our entire fleet combined. Suddenly, a new voice came over the communication system. It spoke in perfect English, but with an accent Jake had never heard before. Greetings, citizens of the Human Republic. This is Captain Maria Santos of the Andromeda Colonial Fleet. We have come home. Jake looked at Lisa and Kevin in amazement. The humans from other galaxies had arrived. Captain Santos, Jake said into the communicator, this is Emperor Jake Morrison. Welcome to Haven. Emperor? Came the reply, with what sounded like amusement. How wonderfully primitive. We haven't had emperors in 50,000 years. May Sao. We come aboard to discuss the situation? An hour later, Jake stood in the palace's main meeting room with his advisors. The doors opened and 3 people walked in. They looked human, but something was different about them. They moved with perfect grace, and their eyes seemed to hold vast knowledge. The leader was a woman with silver hair and kind but ancient-looking eyes. She wore simple clothes, but they seemed to be made of material that shifted colors like liquid starlight. I am Captain Santos, she said with a slight bow. These are my colleagues, Dr. James Liu and Engineer Patricia White. We represent the Confederation of Human Galaxies. How many humans are there in other galaxies? Lisa asked. Approximately 50 billion, Santos replied casually, spread across 23 galaxies that we control completely, plus colonies in hundreds of others. Jake felt his knees go weak. 50 billion humans with technology beyond imagination, and they had just called his government primitive. Why did you come here? He asked. Because this is humanity's birthplace, Santos said with a warm smile. We've been waiting 100,000 years for our cousins here to reclaim their heritage. We wanted to congratulate you and offer our assistance. What kind of assistance? Ryan asked suspiciously. Technology, knowledge, resources, Dr. Liu said. We've learned much in our exile. We can help you build a civilization that will last millions of years instead of just thousands. And what do you want in return? Jake asked. Nothing, Engineer White said simply. You are our family. We help family. Jake looked around at his advisors. They all seemed as amazed as he felt. There is one thing we should discuss, Santos said. The species that destroyed the first human empire still exist in other parts of the galaxy. They will eventually try to destroy your new republic too. We can help you prepare for that. The Zephyrians, Corvins, and Thrain have been defeated, Lisa said. Those are just the local powers, Santos said with a sad smile. The real enemy is much larger. The coalition of ancient species controls thousands of galaxies. They see any human success as a threat to their dominance. Jake felt cold. Just when he thought the galaxy was finally at peace, he learned that there were even greater enemies waiting in the darkness between galaxies. Will you help us fight them? He asked. We will help you become strong enough that they will never dare to attack, Santos said. It's time for humanity to take its rightful place as the guardians of all free species. Not just in this galaxy, but in all galaxies. Jake looked out at the stars again. When he had left Earth as a refugee 4 years ago, he had thought his people were finished. Now he was the leader of a galactic empire, with billions of advanced humans offering to help him build something even greater. What do we do first? He asked. Santos smiled. First, we teach your people to build ships that can travel between galaxies. Then we introduce you to the thousands of species in other galaxies who have been waiting to meet the humans of the home galaxy. And finally, we begin the great work. What great work? Jake asked. Building a civilization that spans all galaxies, Santos said. A place where every intelligent species can live in freedom and peace. The ancient humans dreamed of this but failed because they tried to rule through force. We've learned to rule through inspiration instead. Jake thought about everything that had happened. The exile that had seemed like the end of humanity had actually been the beginning of something incredible. The species that had tried to destroy them had instead pushed them to rediscover their true strength. When do we start? He asked. We already have, Santos said, looking out at the stars. The new age of human leadership begins today, and this time it will last forever. Outside the palace, ships from dozens of galaxies were arriving to welcome. the humans of Earth back to their place among the stars. The exile was over. The real adventure was just beginning. Jake Morrison had started as a captain trying to save 50,000 refugees. Now he was the emperor of an alliance that would eventually include every free species in the universe. And, somewhere in the distance, among stars not yet explored, new worlds waited for the touch of human guidance and the promise of freedom for all.